Oh, nobody made me the God Squad. The Pope even said, this is Pope Benedict, that it is demonic, not divine, when theology crosses into the line of doing that which only the divine can do. He was speaking specifically about liberation theology. If you want to ask anybody in the Catholic Church, they witnessed it. It's Marxism disguised as religion, and it happened in South America. And the Catholic Church has a very long history with it. They understand it unlike most religions. And I'm not judging him for that. I'd love to have an open conversation about collective salvation. Chris, I don't know what you know or what you believe, but most Christians, when you say I'm a Christian, and look, I'm a Mormon, and most Christians don't recognize me as a Christian, so who am I to say? I'm not judging. I'm saying most Christians would look at collective salvation, which is my salvation, my redemption, is incumbent on what the collective does. So I can't be saved unless the collective is saved. Well, that is a direct opposite of what the gospel talks about. Jesus came for personal salvation. It's why people say, you just accept Jesus and you're saved. That's not what my church teaches. You are, but then you got to get in there and plug. You got to change your heart as well. Okay, that's what I happen to believe. What does the president believe? 4 different speeches since he's been president, he has told, and mainly students, that your salvation is directly tied to the collective salvation. That's not something that most Christians recognize. I'm not demonizing it. I disagree with it. The Pope has said, he's actually demonized it. People aren't recognizing his version of Christianity, just like, and 48% of the African American community doesn't recognize it either, by the way. They didn't recognize it with Jeremiah Wright. They don't recognize it now.
Let's talk in the time that we have left about, I don't know if it's one of your favorite subjects or not, Glenn Beck, because I'm trying to figure you out. In the 40 years that I've been in this business, I have to say, I've never seen anyone quite like you. You're not a newsman. You're not a preacher. You're not a politician. Your radio show bills itself as the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. What are you?
I'm a dad. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a guy who, Chris, you would have talked to, 15 years ago, one of the most ignorant men on the planet. I'm a guy who took one class because it's all I could afford when I was 30 in college. I made a lot of mistakes in life, bottomed out, figured out that I didn't know my butt from my elbow, and decided to learn. And I read everything I could. I read people who disagree with each other. I try to find the truth. And only because I bottomed out and realized I didn't believe in anything, really. I believed in stuff because other people told me it. I want to figure out what the real truth is, and inconsistencies bother me. And now I find myself in a situation, started with 9/11, and has just gotten stronger and stronger, and very strong during the Bush administration. Most media doesn't like to point out, and in fact, they never do, that I was somebody who, in the last 3 years of George W. Bush, was telling people, run for your lives. And all I'm looking for is the truth. And I feel that each of us, back to your first question, each of us have the responsibility as American citizens to stand guard. If I'm wrong, I'm going to be the first to celebrate. I mean, everybody always talks about how much money you know how much money he's making off stuff. Are you kidding me? Have you listened to my show? I believe it's going to be pretty worthless at some point. I mean, I don't know what the currency is going to be, gold or acorns, but I don't think it's going to be the U.S. dollar.
Jon Stewart has been going after you a lot recently, and let's watch him doing Glenn Beck. Here it is.
Yeah.
And as I look around at all the truly random things that I scribbled, I'm sorry, I promised myself that I would cry.
What do you think of that?
I think he's funny. I think, quite honestly, I think he should write me a check. I don't think there's anybody on radio or television that makes more jokes about themselves than me. I've tried to get Frank Caliendo, who does a great me, I mean, really, really well. I've tried to get him on the show to do the chalkboard and mock me himself. Look, there's a lot of stuff to make fun of.
Well, let me ask you about one of those things. What's with all the crying?
Did you notice that I didn't during the speech?
Yeah, there were a couple of times when you were getting close.
Well, for me, okay, yes, I was getting verklempt, but I didn't cry. You know how hard I worked on that? Look, I was a hard-living, hard-drinking guy, and I don't know what happened, but when I stopped drinking and I turned my life around and I began to care about stuff, I got all mushy inside. Believe me, Chris, there is nothing that drives me crazy more than crying all the time. My wife, I was writing the speech, and I'm laying down on the floor, and I'm writing the speech, and my wife comes down, she lays down next to me, and I just looked at her, and I started to cry. And she doesn't, most times she doesn't even say anything. She's like, "You want some orange juice?" And I said, she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, no, it's what's right. It's what's right. And I don't know what happened to me, but I'm a mushy guy. I cry at commercials.
Let me ask you about a couple of final things. You announced last month that you have a serious and rare eye disease called macular dystrophy, and that you could go blind in the next year. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I came to a great place with that, to where I'm beginning to really come to a really great place, and if it's not true, just don't anybody tell me, that I'm not noticing, I'm not taking things as bad when it comes to experiences in life. They just are, and it's what you make of them. I felt bad for myself, so I felt sorry for myself for about 3 days, because I really like to read, and I wouldn't be able to read, and so I felt sorry for myself on that. And then I just got to a place to where I'm like, you know what? Then if that's happening, that's because I'm missing something. I'm not seeing something because I have eyes. So what's the next chapter? What is it that's going to happen? With that being said, this particular disease, I love this diagnosis. The doctor said, well, you have macular dystrophy, and you could be blind in the next year, or you could die at a very old age, and it could all stop here and it would be fine. I said, what? So in other words, I could be blind, or I could not be blind. I think my mother told me that when I ran with a stick. I think everybody knows you could put an eye out. I got that.
All right. Finally, you hold a rally on the National Mall, and hundreds of thousands of people come. After that, are a TV show and a radio show going to be enough for you?
Why, do you have some other idea?
Well, I got to tell you, the blog traffic right now is a Beck-Palin national ticket in 2012.
Not a chance. I don't know what Sarah's doing. I hope to be on vacation. I have no desire to be president of the United States. Zero desire. I don't think that I would be electable. And there are far too many people that are far smarter than me to be president. I'd like to find one with some honor and integrity. I haven't seen them yet. But they'll show up.
But when you've got hundreds of thousands of people showing up to see you, Glenn, that's something. I mean, that's worth something. And I don't mean personally to you, but that's people putting their trust in you.
Well, but I mean, if that's the case, then we should either elect Billy Graham or Paul McCartney. I mean,
well, you don't sing as well as one of them.
I know. You know, that's not how we should be looking for our president on whether or not that's politics again. You know, can they get elected? How many people are they? You know, yada yada. We should be looking for people with the right ideas. My feeling right now is the country is in trouble, and I don't see a political solution because I think we're too divided. I think both parties have sold their souls. And, you know, our founders, if you read their speeches and you read their documents and their letters to each other, when they founded our country, they all said it would happen if the people turned from God. So let's take them as people who knew what they were talking about. What do you say we give the whole let's turn back to God thing a try and see what happens?
Glenn, we want to thank you so much for talking with us at the end of a very long day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris.